Hi, I'm Laura Coyle, and if you've ever had trouble getting good color palettes into Adobe Illustrator, I have a tool that can help you. It's called Adobe Color. And in this video, we're going to look at how Adobe Color works and how it works so well with Adobe Illustrator. So to get onto the Adobe Color website, you're going to use the address color.adobe.com. This is also part of Adobe Express now. The feature's been around for a long time, but there are some new things that I want to point out. So let's go here to the Create a Color Palette Now button. And we have several ways of making a color palette. So if we look over here in the tabs, you can see we've got a color wheel, we've got the image tab where we can create color from an image, and then we have this primary color tab. And we're going to look at all of these in this video. So let's go ahead and go back to the color wheel. And we have a random color generator here. So if I click on this button in the upper right corner, we can just create new color palettes randomly. Let's say I find a color here that I like, maybe this one. I can hover and lock the color. I'll hover here and lock this color. And then I can continuously generate more random color from this. So I'll lock this one, and then I can find one more color. Now, you can also step back using the undo or redo button here. I can add another color by hovering between the color bars and clicking the plus button. And once I've got a color scheme, I can go ahead and save it to my libraries by just coming down here and giving it a name. So let's see, I have 6 colors. I'm going to call this 6 New Colors. And click this library button. And I'm saving it to a library. You can click on the drop down to choose the library you want to save it to, and then click this button to save it to the library. And later on, we'll be able to jump over there and see that it's sitting there ready for us to use in Adobe Illustrator. But now let's walk through some more of the details about this Adobe Color tool. So I've just sort of randomly generated a palette, but here on this color wheel interface, I can also use these color harmonies down here. So I'll go ahead and click on some of these. I have an analogous or complementary and a split complementary. And what's happening right now is all of these palettes are based on this color right here. And this is the base color. We can see it's got that little target on it that lets us know that. So you can choose a base color and generate harmonies on that. It's a little bit like working with the color guide tool in Illustrator. So let's look at that. What I'm going to do here is I want to change this base color. So to do this, I can go over to primary color, this tab here, and we can see we have a ramp here that we can use. So if I want to make this darker, I can change the hue altogether, and let's sort of make it a medium blue color. And now this is our base colors, as we can see right there. And so if I want to go back, I can go back to the color wheel and then generate color theory based palettes using these buttons here. So we can see we have this triad, a square, shades, monochromatic. So this can really help you find some good sources here. Now, the other things that you can do on the wheel, once things are kind of locked into this harmony, we can spin this around, kind of like in Recolor Artwork inside of Illustrator. One difference here is that in Recolor Artwork in Illustrator, we can hold down the Shift key to kind of lock things in so you're not moving in and out, sort of drifting around as you're doing this. Here, we don't have that Shift key shortcut, but it works in a similar way that you drag the base color and you can sort of overall desaturate and lighten colors or darken them here as you drag, or you can just use that sort of harmony framework to create, an entirely different palette. I'm going to try and get back there because I kind of like this one. Now, let's say we want to make some edits to an individual color here. We can come back and hover over these buttons. So we saw the lock button before. This button for Edit Tint allows us to just choose a different tint or shade of that color. This lets us drag to reorder it here. And of course, the trash icon would let us delete that. Another way to change the color here, so let's say I want to maybe make this gray color darker, is to just click on the hex code, and then I've got, a usual kind of color picker here that I can work with. So I'm going to kind of make it a little bit more blue and saturated and darker. Maybe I'll come over here and make this one a little bit darker like that. So now we've kind of fine-tuned some of the colors that we have. And I can go ahead and save this. I like to give it a name with the number, so I'm going to call it 6 blue yellow, like that. And again, save that to my library, same library. Okay, so now that we've looked at the color wheel tab and the primary color tab for setting the base color, let's look at the image tab. And this allows us to bring an image in that we can generate a color palette from. So I'm going to go on to my system here and where I've got some photos I can drag in. So here's one. And you can see it sort of automatically chooses colors from that image, but we do have a menu here so you can sort of play around with a different color mood from the photo. Like this. I kind of like colorful better. And if you want to add more colors from the image, click on this button to add a color. This gives you another color spot, and then you can drag it around to find, let's go and get this gray right here. And it looks like, it's funny, I'm not seeing any of those colors here. So let's go back to colorful. All right, looks like we had a little bit of a hiccup there. I'm going to try and, oh yeah, it's really acting strangely right now. So this is the first time this has happened. It's going a little nuts for me at the moment. So what I'm going to do is just hit that reset button. Okay. And then I'm going to drag that same image in and see if it will stick for us. Okay. So far, so good. Let's add some color here. I'm going to add a blue and add another one. Yeah, this black right here, or maybe this brown. That looks good. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors, and I'm ready to save this if I want to. But I just want to point out quickly a couple of other features that are here. So if we go up here to where it says Create Palette, hover here and we've got a contrast checker. So this helps you to check the contrast in this color palette. I'm not going to go into that, but it's a good tool to use if you need it. And then let's go here to the color blindness. Click on that. And it evaluates the palette with color blindness simulator. So that's really great. Now I'll go back to creating my palette so I can continue editing this. And let's go to the image. It looks like I don't have my image anymore. So if you click around like this, you may lose that image. So once you start working with an image, you probably want to stick with it. Okay, so I think we've seen just about all of the features on this page. One last thing, you can copy the hex code to your clipboard. That's a really handy thing to be able to do. And now let's look at what we have some options down here at the bottom. So we've already looked at saving it to a library. If we click on this button, Create with My Color Palette, it's going to take us into Adobe Express so we can work with this color palette there. The download button, what this does is it downloads an image of that color palette, and I just did that. So I'm going to go ahead and open that open that up in Photoshop so you can see what that looks like. It's just a color palette image there. Let's go back to Adobe Color. There's also a share button. So if you click on this, it's going to provide a link and you can text it or email it or whatever you would normally do with that. All right, so now we've looked at everything here on the website, and now we're going to move over to Illustrator to see how to use our color palettes over there. So now that we're in Illustrator, let's see how we can use these color palettes. So the first thing I want to do is open up my libraries panel here. And this is the library where I've been saving the colors. And so I have my blue yellow color palette here, and I'm going to right click it and say add theme to swatches. And I've got a couple other ones here that I'm going to use. Let's do that one and this one, and then come over here and look at my swatches panel, and we can see all of those color groups that I've added there. Once you do this, you really don't need the default color. So I'm going to go ahead and just select all of those and hit the trash icon to delete them. Great. So when you have color groups here in Illustrator, it makes it really easy to work with these in Recolor Artwork. Now, what you can do is you can actually edit one of these palettes here. So if you missed something or didn't quite get it as perfect as you want it, you can go ahead and, for example, double click with nothing else selected. Double click on the folder icon, and this opens edit colors here. So this looks like Recolor Artwork, but it is a feature specifically for editing that color palette. And it has a similar interface to what we saw in Adobe Color. And this is, really looks just like Recolor Artwork. So some of the things that we can do here that are really helpful is, right now this is locked in this harmony. If I want to unlock it, I can click on the link icon there, and then I can move some of these around individually. And I can watch up here to see what's the original color palette looks like. And let's see what happens when I make this a little bit darker. You can also use the sliders here, HSB, RGB, CMYK, any of those, to adjust those individual colors, or you can double click to use a color picker here to adjust an individual color. Now, one thing it's really important to know is that unfortunately there's not an undo button here. So when you have things the way you want them, maybe you should just go ahead and save it because it's going to be hard to work your way back through without that kind of a convenient button. So I'm going to click on OK here. It's going to ask me if I want to save the change I made to that group, and I'm going to click OK. And now we can see what it did is it actually just duplicated the group down here with my, slightly different color in it. And if you want to know more about Recolor Artwork, I have other videos here on YouTube, and I also teach a lot about this in my Illustrator learning community. So now that we have some color we can use, let's just take a look at a quick way of recoloring some artwork here. So I'm going to go to Recolor Artwork, and let's close the swatches panel. And when you have color in color groups like that, like the folders that we're seeing here from what we created on Adobe Color, then we can go to this menu here, Colors. Oh, wait, no, sorry, the menu here, Color Library, and go to Swatch Group and choose one of our swatch groups here. And then you can see that applies it. We can also randomize it by sort of using this little shuffle button here. On this first panel of Recolor Artwork, we do have a forward and back button, which is really helpful. And so sometimes when I get something that's close that I like, I stop right here and I exit by just clicking outside of Recolor Artwork. So I've stopped the recoloring. Then I'm going to come back in here and open up Recolor Artwork again and go to Advanced Options. And when I'm in Advanced Options, it allows me to sort of do some dragging and dropping. So maybe I want to swap out the dark color and the light color there. I might want to try a different color for the sky. I'll swap out these colors. And so just dragging and dropping lets you swap like that. And then from here, if I want to make adjustments, I can just choose the color I'm working on and make some adjustments using the sliders here. Maybe I'll make this green a little lighter and a little more intense like that. And we're off and running. So having those color groups from Adobe Color makes it really nice to, they work so beautifully inside of Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to go ahead and just click OK here. And one more thing that I wanted to show you, and that is that if you noticed, we were able to save some larger color groups from Adobe Color into the library, and then from that CC library into Adobe Illustrator. But for example, we have a 6 color group here that we were just working with. Let me select on that. If we go to the bottom here, this is where this button will let us send those selected swatches, that swatch group, to the library. Let's do that. And when we do that, it gives us this warning that we can only save 5 colors back to the library in a group. So this is a bit of a discrepancy. Why is it that we can have, up to 10 colors in a color group from Adobe Color into the CC library, but we can't save larger color groups from Illustrator into the CC library? We can have really large color groups in Illustrator. We just can't move them into the CC library. So this is an issue, and I think that we may have a fix coming for it. We can hope that Adobe is going to fix this for us. But once they do, it's going to be amazing because I'll be able to create large color groups here inside Illustrator and keep them in my library so that they're always there here in Illustrator or inside of Adobe Express or other Adobe apps. So I hope this tip has been helpful, that you're going to be using Adobe Color and working with color groups in Adobe Illustrator. My name is Laura Coyle. I teach Illustrator here on YouTube and in my Illustrator learning community. And if you'd like more tips like this, then sign up for my email list. You'll find the link below the video. And if you subscribe, you'll be notified when my next video is out. Thank you so much for watching.